Welcome to episode 22 of the Tool and Tie podcast. What's up, everybody? We are here again for another really cool episode of the Tool and Tie podcast. Today we're going to be talking about something that I've gotten a lot of emails on and just a lot of questions in general. And that is, what are some early warning signs of a bad contractor? And today we're going to cover that off right here. So just to get started, let me just put some context behind this. Some of this feedback that I'm going to give you is based on personal experience. Some is based on experience from friends. And some of it is just stuff that I've read online as well. So I'm going to give you the rundown. I've got about a couple of tips, and we're going to go through them right now. So the first one is, when you're looking to hire a contractor, you really want to make sure that they're licensed. So whether that's a municipal or a state or / provincial board, you want to make sure that they hold some kind of a license. So I know in the States, for example, you have to have a contractor license to do any kind of bidding, essentially. In Canada, it's a little bit more specific to trade. So for example, your electrician needs to have a license, and there's different types of licenses. So there's just your regular electrician license, and there's a master electrician license. And the same goes with plumbers. There's plumbers and master plumbers. So you want to make sure that any trade that you bring in, they're actually licensed and they can do the job. Now, the best way to check to see whether or not they are licensed is, first of all, obviously, let's do the honesty test. Let's ask them and make sure that they do hold a license. But if you want to go ahead and do some kind of a background check, look at your local board, your College of Trades board, and they should be able to tell you whether or not they're licensed or not, and if their license is still in good standing and whatnot. Now, keep in mind, only a licensed contractor can actually pull out permits, or a homeowner, depending on where you are. So if they're not licensed, they're not going to be able to pull out permits. So the first early warning sign is if a contractor comes here and says, oh, you don't need a permit for that, whether it's an HVAC, plumbing, electrician, you know what? Once that contractor leaves the house and something happens to your house, it's not their concern anymore. So it's totally your concern. It's going to be totally your issue. So you want to make sure that it's certified, it's inspected, and it's done by somebody licensed. So if somebody says to you, you don't need a permit, that's the first sign to kick them out of your house. And I'm going to give you a story, actually. So this one actually happened to a close friend of mine, and it's a very unfortunate situation. And I think I may have covered this story off in an earlier podcast. I can't remember. But essentially what happened was that person got some electrical work done around the house. They did not pull a permit. And they realized that, so when the person actually came in, they said, yes, they're an electrician. So this friend of mine did not go to the College of Trades, or they didn't look to make sure that this person is an electrician, which they were not. They were just a handyman. And handyman's definition of electrician is, yes, I can do electricity. And in this case, this person really didn't know what the hell they were doing. So what happened was they had wired the house. And, I guess what happened was, there was an issue with grounding. I'm not sure if it was an outlet or what was it. It was a switch. It wasn't grounded properly. And there was some arcing that happened in the house. And as a result, part of the house got damaged by fire. Luckily, they were able to put out the fire before it actually spread throughout the house. But, there was damage, significant damage, tens and thousands of dollars of damage. The insurance company came in and they took a look at the work and they said, wait a minute, well, this device isn't grounded. So, what happened here? The rest of the house is grounded, so it looks like somebody touched this. And the other problem, I guess in this case, when they know that this outlet or whatever was touched, a new fixture was put in. So when you look at some of the old fixtures, like for example, you have those round outlets. If somebody goes and puts in a Decora switch, which is a little bit more modern, you know that something's been touched there. So essentially the insurance company said, you know what, we're going to wash our hands clean of this. This is your issue. Unless you can present to us that this was done by somebody certified and it was inspected, that's the biggest thing, we'll cover it then, because, then this was an issue, or we'll go after the contractor or what have you. But if you can't present that evidence, you're on your own. So that person was literally on their own. Their insurance company did not cover it. So Remember, the contractor, not all contractors are bad. Let me start with that. But these kind of shady contractors are really in it for themselves. They're in it for the short term. They could care less what happens to you tomorrow because they don't have a personal relationship with you. So be careful, basically. And let me take that statement back. Just because they don't have a personal relationship with you, you could have a contractor that has a personal relationship with you, but money speaks louder volumes to them than the relationship. So, be wary of that as well. So first tip is make sure they're licensed. Make sure they're able to pull out permits, and, you got to protect yourself. Now, the second one, and this is one that really bothers me when I hear stories about this. And this actually happened in the past to another friend of mine when, and I wasn't really that much into the contracting or the home DIY. I wasn't into that thing back then. So there wasn't a lot of advice that I could provide them, but essentially this is what happened. And plus this person lives in a different province than me. So they had actually gone and they were getting their basement redone. The second biggest thing that you should be asking any contractor is, where are the plans? So if I'm going to give you X number of dollars to build a plan, you need to build a plan. You'd be surprised how many contractors will start work without even a plan. And the homeowners don't even know to ask for that. But essentially what we're doing is we're basically putting a contractor, somebody in a car, and we're going to say, you're going to, find this house 1, 2, 3 without a GPS. Figure it out. And, that person can take shortcuts. They can break the law. They can do a whole bunch of things. At the end of the day, they'll get there somehow, but it's going to cost money. It may not be done right. So you need to have a plan. It is the GPS, or it is the directions for the contractor. If they don't have a plan, they don't know what they're doing. So you want to make sure that that's definitely in place. So, going back to this story of my friend who got this basement made, what happened was they had framed out the walls, but they didn't account for the framing when they were going to put in the cabinets. Essentially what happened was the cabinets were too deep or sticking out too much, to the point where the exterior door in the basement was actually starting to hit the cabinets. And so you couldn't actually have a scenario where you can have cabinets on one side of the kitchen, and it really made it look stupid and ugly. And so this contractor was obviously a moron. I know who the person is, I know the company is, I'm not going to say it. But this contractor is a moron. Anybody that I talk to, I say stay, 100 feet away from this person because they don't know what they're doing. So obviously they didn't have a plan, and they got upset with the homeowner saying, well, you know what? You told us you want the cabinets here. These are the cabinets you wanted. Well, you should have known. And, the homeowner is just like, well, you're the contractor, so it's up to you to do the measurements and figure all that stuff out. That's not my responsibility. So long story short, if you got to pay to have plans made, I would highly suggest you do it, and make sure you get those plans before you put any other payment in front of that contractor. The plans are very, 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 very important. So make sure that they have plans. The other, or the next early warning sign, and this actually happened to me. So I had subtraded out a drywall contractor because I was doing a renovation in downtown, and I didn't have the time to put up the drywall. And so the guy seemed nice. He wasn't a referral. He's just somebody I saw online on a particular website that likes to rate and review contractors, so be careful of that too. Seemed like a decent, person when I met him. Second time he came around, gave me the bid, gave me the quote. Then we started talking about down payment. So he said he wanted a 60% down payment. He wanted to make sure that it covered off materials, and he wanted to make sure that, it covered off his transportation and a couple of other expenses for his guys. I understand down payments. I understand the reason behind them. I understand that they need to cover off costs, but 60% is just stupid. So if you ever have a contractor that asks you for something excessively high, I think anything more than 50% is very high. I generally try to give a down payment no more than 25% or cover cost of materials, the higher of the two. I think that's fair, and I think that's the way to start. And you got to be very, very careful, because some of these contractors will basically take your money and run, and you will never see them again. So you got to be very, very careful with the down payment structure. And that brings me to the next point, and that is the type of contract that you should be doing is basically a payment on completion contract. And what that really means is, for every step or milestone that they complete, they get the payment after that. Assuming that, the homeowner and and the contractor, you both kind of come to the agreement to say, okay, yeah, this is what was determined. So you want to put that out in advance. So if you got a general contractor coming in, after you do the framing, you get X dollars. After you do the electrical and insulation, you get X dollars. The plumbing, the drywalling, and all that stuff. So you want to lay all that out. This way it's on paper and there's no arguments. So a contractor can't come to you and say, well, I need extra money because I got to go get this, and this. Well, it's all in the contract. Now, if a contractor doesn't want to do that and they just say, no, it's 50% or 60% and, it's going to be the other 30% here, 20%, that they're just, either they just don't know what they're doing, they haven't been in the business long enough, or they're just scam artists. So you make sure you get everything on paper. And that brings me to another topic. And that is, you want to make sure there's some kind of an establishment for this contractor. What you don't want to do is hire a lone wolf. So a guy comes to your house and he demands 60%. There's no way for you to track this person down after that. So, what are you going to do? You're going to go online and you're going to post a thing and say, this is what, Bob looks like, and stay away from him. Or, there's no way, nothing you can do. You can't go to your provincial or state licensing board, because, all you have is a name, but you don't have an establishment. You can't go to court because court requires some kind of an address. So you want to make sure that there's some kind of address, that there's something that, in case something goes sour, you can go back and, basically protect yourself. You want to make sure that happens. And another story, actually, this actually happened to my father when we were younger, where we hired a contractor basically to refinish part of the basement. So what happened was, we had kind of a sewer backup, and we needed to restore some of the tiles, and the washroom got ruined. So we didn't know much, and I think Kijiji didn't even exist back then. So it was strictly on a referral basis, or you drive by and you sort of see a contractor and you go back to them and you say, hey, listen, can you come and check out my property? Well, what happened was that person was a lone wolf. They basically took about, my dad was smart about it. He gave him no more than 20%. In good faith to say that this person's going to get the work done. But, they did a pretty shoddy job, I would say. And, when they were asked to fix certain things that were obvious, the person took off. So, there was no way for us to go back to, we couldn't find him, but we couldn't go to court. We couldn't really do anything. The only thing we could do is hunt for him. But what's that going to do, really? It's not going to do much. I'm not saying that every lone wolf out there is bad, but you want to make sure that you have some kind of a backup. At the end of the day, you're there to protect yourself, not the contractor. And then my final tip to you guys is references. I've actually had a scenario where a contractor said, I can give you references, but when I called him, that person surprisingly was his mother. It was his mother. That's how funny that scenario was. So, she was saying, yeah, he did a wonderful job in my bathroom. And I just said, well, thank you, ma'am. By the way, how are you, how did you find the contractor? Oh, well, he's my son. So, that was kind of a red flag. So when I went to the guy, I'm like, well, do you have anybody other than your mother? Is there somebody else you're working with right now? And I guess he thought his mother wouldn't rat him out or something. I don't know, but she was a really nice lady. But at the end of the day, that's a scenario where you don't want to give a family member or a friend as a reference. I mean, you want to obviously talk to a real customer who doesn't have some kind of a relationship with this person. And so references are extremely important. You want to look at not just online. Do not get fooled just by looking at pictures. People can put pictures from different websites. You want to go in and invest invest the time to go and actually look at the property they're working on, especially if you're going to do a big, big job. These are some of the tips that I've got in terms of early warning signs for bad contractors. Like I said, it's very, very difficult to identify if somebody is genuine or not. I mean, in most cases, you want to try giving people the benefit of the doubt, but at the end of the day, you got to protect yourself, not the contractor. So, make sure you look at some of these suggestions. And if you got any other questions or anything specific, feel free to shoot me an email at sats@toolandtie.com. Until then, guys, stay happy, stay safe, and stay productive.